children. Oh, welcome to Fly Nubian Money, where we help Black women master their mindset and maximize their money. I'm Athena Gardner, and today we are talking about Brian McKnight disowning his own children. It has caused a lot of controversy amongst fans, and it has sparked a whole feud between celebrities, okay, Ricky Smiley and Tyrese. But before we get started into these discussions, let me introduce the dynamic co-queens, honey. Joining me today, we have Linda Husser, who is a bodacious lifestyle coach, okay? We have Jade Harrell, who is a nice educator and social entrepreneur. Dr. Charm Timms, okay, naturopathic doctor and spiritual advisor. And we also have Linda E., actress, presenter, model. Hi, Queens. How are you all doing today?
Hey,
Great.
Queens.
Blessed by the best. Hey.
Yes.
Hello.
So let's get into it. Linda Husser, I want to ask you, how do you feel about, just in general, parents disowning their children? Is that a thing that parents should be doing? How do you feel about Brian doing that?
Absolutely, positively not. But what I am more mortified by that is the fact that now we live in a time, I'm 60 years old, so I came up when there was no cell phones. There wasn't all of this social media, but the fact that they are airing their dirty laundry in public is what is absolutely mortifying to me. I'm not here to necessarily judge how one does one's thing, but I just don't see any upside to the fact that this is being played out in front of the world, in front of all of us. And it is just really, really, really unfortunate to me and sad that he, as a grown man, he's 54 years old, thinks that this is how you actually go about dealing with this situation that is clearly morphed into, from a molehill, definitely to a mountain. And so I just feel so saddened by the fact that this is playing out, and this is a Black man, right? And he's having some issues with his children, and they are Black men. He has a daughter as well, but it is outrageous, is what it is, right? And I just think there's just a sense of sadness to me when I think about this, that this is the way that they chose to deal with it.
I feel sad about it too. What do you think, Jade? The sigh alone.
Yeah. Well, the first thing is, I just want to say that I do not have children yet. And I don't feel comfortable speaking about parenthood or how people deal with their children or inner dynamics. I think it's really interesting that this has become a topic of conversation, right? And the fact that it's a topic of conversation because Brian McKnight went public about his family business with his children. I can only imagine how damaging this is to his kids. I'm a daddy's girl. My father has been deceased for over 20 years, but every single day, I was raised in a 2-parent household, so I was really blessed with that. But even the sense of abandonment that I still feel by, having, a deceased father, like who's not there, it just kind of makes me sad to think that, there are children out there, and outside of this particular circumstances, people who legit have fathers that are living and breathing that for one way or another can't be in their lives or have chosen not to be in their lives, in the sense of abandonment and attachment issues that it creates. So I don't particularly feel qualified to speak about parenthood or relationships with children. So I'm also here to learn. But, this topic also makes me feel very, very sad.
Yes, it's very unfortunate. I miss the days where celebrities had publicists and had no access to social media, and they kept like things under wrap and indoors. Dr. Charm, what do you think about what's going on with Brian McKnight and him? His son Nico has been very vocal, and Tyrese and Ricky Smiley has jumped into the mix as well. Like, what do you think about handling?
I'm not going to pull any punches. I'm not going to pull any punches. Brian McKnight had a sister for his first wife, and now he has a preference. And colorism has come into the conversation because Julie, who was married to her from 1990 to 2003, and I even heard certain stories back then about his antics, taking other women and side chicks around in the airports and things, because I used to work for the airlines before, when I was in college and before I went to medical school. So I would hear stories like that from the airline workers. So he did all his little dirt, and now he wants to be saved and be with the pediatric neurophysiologist, Dr. Leilani. I mean, she's an accomplished woman. And if for anybody doesn't know, the neurophysiologist is somebody that evaluates the nervous system. So she works in pediatrics. So she's working with children. So I need to know that has she spoken to Brian's inner child to talk to him about why he's behaving this way? Because you can have issues with your children. Everybody has gone through things with their children and their parents, and there are parents who are estranged from their children. But to say that his children were from evil and sin, because these are his words, that to me lets me know that he just doesn't want to have anything to do with them. And I'm just wondering, is it because they're from the Black woman? Are they dark skinned? That's one thing. And the other thing is that maybe he didn't like the things that he was doing. He didn't like the self that he was when he was raising those children. So that's my question, Brian. Look in the mirror, because I would like to know why you consider your children born from sin when they come from 50% of your DNA.
Woo, Dr. Charm brought the heat, honey, and I love it. I love it. Because I think a lot of people have sentiments about, especially when men remarry and completely different ethnicity of the wife, and may not have been there for the original children the same, because he did his 4 children before Leilani were by 3 different women. So, there's that to be said. What do you think about it, Linda E?
So I'm quite similar to Jade. I was lucky enough to be brought up in a 2-family household. Unfortunately, my father passed away too in 2018. So that sense of not having my dad and always having my dad did everything. He took me to museums. He made sure I was cultured. And to see this is how Brian McKnight is treating his children and airing it so publicly is really, really sad. Like, I'm based in the UK and we've heard about it over here. Do you know what I mean? And it raises a really, really good question. Is it to do with colorism? Is it to do with race? Is it to do with how he was as a person growing up and treating and raising those children? I think fundamentally it is really, really sad. And I think the fact that Ricky Smiley jumped in, I kind of understand why he jumped in, because Brian McKnight publicly disowned. So I think for him, he was publicly showing support. But with Tyrese jumping in, it's just a mess that's just unnecessary for the whole family, not just the kids the kids he's disowning, but how about the kids he has now? How can they be sure that in a couple of years' time, he might not do the same thing to them and their mum? So it's just like, it's just not it. It's just not it.
Yeah.
Like with Tyrese, as soon as I heard Tyrese was, I was like, why Tyrese is in this? Like, we were not talking about you. We were not trying to, every time I think about Tyrese, I think of that meme of him crying and saying, what more do you want from me? And I think what we want from you, Tyrese, is to sit down and relax, because we all know you have your own issues between child support, custody arrangement between your first kid's mother and then your newly divorced wife. So I don't know if Tyrese has any legs to stand on when it comes to backing up Brian McKnight. I was reading that Nico, which is Brian's second oldest son, clapped back at Tyrese saying that, I know the R&B brotherhood is strong, but, you used to sleep under our pool table. So that kind of like loyalty. But how do you feel about other men infusing themselves within this argument? Because we have one person, which is Ricky Smiley, which is defending the children and opening up himself to the children. And he might feel a certain way, especially since he lost one of his children. And we have Tyrese on the other side, basically backing up Brian McKnight and saying that it's okay to disown his own children. How do you guys feel about the different men's approach? I would like to start with you, Jade.
Yeah, I think men and women, they should just stay out of people's family business. Although Brian McKnight did put this out there, and this is really ugly and damaging to his children, even people that know Brian McKnight should just be quiet. It doesn't necessarily need your comment or for you to add fuel to the fire or to pick sides. I do believe, though, in all fairness, that Ricky Smiley's approach and his words of support and comfort were very, very helpful. And I know that he used his platform to do that. I wonder if that could have been done privately, so that people could just move on. Um, these things need to really be regulated and monitored by people who are mental health professionals, family therapists, and people who are actually qualified to add support. And that is also done confidentially and in private. And I just wish that people would not use the internet. It just really irks me. It gets under my skin when I see these sorts of public controversies and dudes are in the midst of it. Because the way I was raised, especially with my father, my alpha male father, and uncles and grandfathers and brothers and everybody else, it was just a time where men spoke less, especially publicly.
Ooh.
And this sort of back and forth, it's just really not a good look. I see more dudes out here getting messy and getting dirty and talking about all of this stuff. When I think that a different approach is definitely needed, and they get to lead by example.
Right.
Yeah.
It's definitely not giving king energy. And usually we will see these things more so when families are fighting over money. And speaking about money, as a certified CPA, I know a lot about money and investments, but I also know for the everyday person, it could be a difficult thing to bridge. So our sponsors at the Black Business School are offering free AI stock lists created by financial experts to help you get your money right. So text the word Queens to 87948 to receive your free investment list today. For those of you who are joining us live, we are your queens for today. Remember to share, like, and subscribe. And we are talking about Brian McKnight disowning his own children. So, Linda, I want you to get your thoughts as well on the other men joining in between Ricky Smiley and Tyrese. And is it giving King energy to be going back and forth on the internet like this, like what the men are doing?
No, absolutely not. It is given feminine energy to me. 100, right? Because I come up in a time where men did not even like if you were trying to tell your boyfriend or your husband some stuff, it's like, oh, I don't, we don't do that. So now to see the evolution where men are actually gossiping basically it's not giving masculinity to me. Now, I'm not saying anything other than what I said. It's not giving masculinity vibes to me. And unfortunately, we have to be careful that we don't, in our own way, in our quest to help, actually put fuel on the fire. The help for this situation is for nobody to jump in, let them do what they need to do and heal, because clearly there needs to be some intervention. Like, I want to see somebody who's in the mental health space maybe say something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least put something out there in a way where maybe not directly speaking to this, but saying, hey, when we have family disputes and this is typically how one should go about handling that. I want to see someone who could really be a source of support and assistance and help, actually maybe go in their DMs and say, hey, it's time to wave the flag of surrender and let's take this in a space and in a place where we can have some healing, because that's really what needs to happen at this point, I feel.
Right. And I feel like with Tyrese did say that he was quoted saying that let's not act like relationships between men and their children can't fall apart, which he does have a point, and I don't think anyone's arguing with that. It's just the way things are handled. I don't think this is giving like mature energy in any kind of way, like mostly keep things in-house, because ultimately this feud is not a positive for Brian McKnight's brand. If I was his publicist or something, this is not a good look. Like, for you to go on the internet and say, and this is a quote from him, in order to live a life that you love, you have to get rid of the evil and negativity, even if the evil and negativity is related to you. So he's calling his children like evil, which is so harsh. Now, I do not have kids, but I do have parents. And I don't think that even if they were upset about our relationship or there was something negative, my parents would never publicly air that dirty laundry or put it on for public display. Luckily, we have a decent relationship. But not everyone, to Tyrese's point, not everyone has a decent relationship with their kids, and that's okay. Dr. Charm, like, it seems like you had a lot to say about, you were passionate there about how he's handling things. What do you think about the other men joining the mix?
Well, Tyrese got played by his preference too. So, I mean, he was running up and through here
with the preference conversation,
crying and talking about the lady did him dirty and she used him. Then he did a whole album. Didn't he break up with his girlfriend for a while because she said you need to stop doing songs about this woman? But I disagree with her because I'm like, let him get it all out through his art so he won't be running you crazy at home. But Tyrese needs to stop because he got played by the preference. So it's the risk you run. Brian, you need to get in therapy. I hope that the children are in therapy. I appreciate what Ricky Smiley said. I thought it was very heartfelt. And I think the retort from Tyrese was like, Ricky, you need to worry about your own kids. And I think Ricky is concerned about his own kids because his son just passed away, I think, within the past year. So I think he really took it to heart because he has a son that's in the ground. That, hey, I'm thinking about how these children might be feeling because that's devastating. I don't care what kind of relationship you have with your kids and what they've done. It does not warrant coming in the national spotlight and saying that your children are a product of evil. When you were sitting up there cheating on all these different women, had all these different baby mothers running around here, and take some accountability and maybe look at maybe some of your behavior contributed to their behavior because they're reacting to your behavior. You are their first model. So that's my thought on it. And I hope that, he's not one of these people that thinks that he go to the church all day and all night and think that's going to be a substitute for therapy. Spirituality is wonderful. I am a spiritual advisor myself. I do tarot and psychic readings and mediumship readings, and it has its places. It can be very healing. But on the other hand, it does not replace therapists. If I'm looking at a tarot card and I see your future and you still and you got some mental illness issues, I'm not going to sit up here and not tell you, hey, you need to go see somebody. Okay, because then that would be on me. I have to answer to that. So he needs to get that. I hope that he seeks therapy.
Linda E., do you agree? You think that Brian McKnight needs to see some therapy for this one?
Oh, absolutely. And look, I saw a comment saying that he's done out here in the Black community. And I think that's something that he needs to remember. This mess isn't just airing out for the Black community. It's airing out everywhere. So people who are not part of our community are looking and seeing, oh, this is how, these dads treat their children. And it's perpetuating certain narratives that just aren't true. Not every single father is like that. Not every single relationship with kids are like that. And look, I'm really happy to see that men are opening up because there was definitely historically a danger of men not really speaking out and sharing their emotions. But the internet is not the place for it. Mm-hmm. So he needs to, number one, seek therapy, but also seek therapy with his kids. Whatever the problem is, he needs to take it away from the internet. And I think also, and look, he has a preference now, so this is a comment that he probably won't care about. But remember that he is still part of the community. So people are looking, seeing him, and judging us by his standards. So he needs to just, but it might be too late at this point,
Which is so unfair because when other groups do other things, that's looked at as that one person is doing that thing. And when any of us act a fool, the whole group, the whole batch of us have to take the heat for that. I know this situation has, this is why I try not to, these celebrity dysfunctions within their life and within their family, because now I can't listen to Back at One and feel the same way. Now, that's why I'm just like, you have to dissociate the music from the person, because if you don't, like, almost all your songs now you can't listen to, because like the way these singers and celebrities act, it's like debauchery left and right, all kind of dysfunction. But I think he's definitely, I wish Dr. Alicia was here today, because I'm sure she could give us like the whole psychology background, because it does seem like he's moving away from his past and labeling it as bad. And, one of his kids was quoting, "How are you telling us that, we're from sin and all of this, when you used to have us clean up your bathroom and clean up your used condoms and all kind of like crazy things?" Because, a lot of these singers do have, a lot of these male singers do have like debaucherous lifestyles when they were performing or like entertaining. So I think there is a lot of healing that needs to be done there. How do you feel about, is it okay? Do you think like Ricky Smiley is going over bounds by inserting himself and offering himself to Brian's children? I want to hear from you, Jade. You can pick that up.
I think it's nice and very commendable that he has done that, and I wish it would have been done in public. But Brian McKnight did publicly embarrass his children and himself. So while I think that it could have been done in private, the situation is already messy. On one hand, Black men are accused of abandoning their family, not stepping up, not holding other Black men accountable. And what I think Ricky Smiley actually did was demonstrate accountability and also demonstrate sort of like the village mentality. It takes a village to raise a child. And I think that is commendable. Whether, my personal preference would have been that he did it in private or not, it really doesn't matter. These people don't even know me. One, two, he actually is demonstrating and leading by example, and I think that is a excellent demonstration of manhood. So that's my overall nuanced opinion on that. My heart just really goes out to these children. When Dr. Charm was speaking earlier on the screen, I saw Brian McKnight and a whole bunch of children or people surrounding him. Were those all of his children, or are they like, I don't know what's going on with that image, but it was a lot of people on that image, and I just wonder how present Brian McKnight has been or not been in his children's lives, and the fact that he was accused of having his children clean up condoms and stuff like that after he was on all these escapades with women is really disgusting to me, and narcissistic. I'm just good at that.
Mm-hmm. And I wonder if a lot of this has to also do with money, because we've known from the past, right? A lot of celebrity parents like Dr. Dre and his daughter have always, or even Benzino and Coi Leray, when the issues of money comes between families, I think that could be an issue, because the children could be feeling neglected. If he's willing to claim his new wife's two kids and disown them, does that necessarily mean that, they're not going to get an inheritance or they're out of his wealth? Because he does have a net worth of like 15 million between all of his concerts, tours, and royalties. So especially if I was a child in this situation and you're claiming your whole new family, I would also be concerned about, is any of that going to pass on through us? Are we disowned? Are we cut off financially in that way? Because money is very important, as we are the Fly Nubian Money channel. So if you are joining us, we are discussing Brian McKnight disowning his children and what the financial aspect of this could be for us, and what lessons that we can learn from this situation, because you don't want to end up like Brian McKnight's children. You might be cut off from your inheritance. So you might want to join us at 87948. Currently, send the text to Queens to 87948, where the Black Business School is offering a free AI stock list to help you get your money up, so that you don't have to depend on an inheritance or be cut out like these children might be.
Right.
But what do you think about this situation for Brian's brand? Because I know that he also made statements that none of his songs were written about anyone in particular, because he didn't love anyone for real until he met his first wife, Leilani, which Leilani must have like the best of everything, because the way he's willing to abandon everything, his children, his legacy, his songwriting, and just credit all of his love and joy in his life to her, speaks a lot to, I guess, the relationship or the power she has over him. But I was wondering what you guys think. Does Brian have like a financial ruin possibly facing? Do you think he will face a possible financial fallout from this particular situation? I will start with you, Linda Husser.
Absolutely. Actually, I don't know where this is, but there is currently a concert that was canceled.
Oh.
Because people were like, oh, we are not supporting this. He will not take our money and go make Miss Leilani, So it's already happening. I can't tell you exactly where it is, but if you Google Brian McKnight concert canceled, it will pop up. And so the venue let everybody know, because people were basically canceling him, saying, we're not coming. We're not going to come support this madness. And so it's already beginning. And what will be interesting to me is, while Miss Leilani might be whatever she is professionally, it'll be interesting to see, because clearly she is not worth $15 million. If she's got this control over him, like we can sense something's going on, if she may be how this actually ends up being resolved, all right? Because the fact that this is going on and she's there and she's not pulling his coat and saying, oh no, babe, this is not what we're going to do. We want to live our best lives, because people out here have issues, and now they see me and they might accost me while I'm out. This has far-reaching ramifications that he really isn't thinking about.
Yes, because he's risking his $15 million fortune potentially with everything. Because I know I was heartbroken when he said his songs didn't really mean anything at the time because he didn't really love anyone. I was like, oh my God, like,
yeah,
Backup One seems like means so much, and Anytime means so much to me. And now he's just ruining my whole fantasy of like what those love songs meant.
Yeah.
Dr. Charm, how do you feel about it? Do you think that he stands to risk his $15 million fortune? And is this a smart, dumb move, or the cost of just having a preference?
Well, I mean, one thing, when you disown your children, that means that you've cut them out of the will. So let's be clear about that. So they have no financial incentive, or they have no inheritance. And so now the bigger conversation of when people marry people who are outside of the community. So when he passes away, because men tend to have a shorter lifespan than women, and all that wealth is going to Leilani and the children who are biracial and not his Black children. So that's a whole nother conversation. That is the implications of marrying outside of the community. But that's his preference, and that's what he's choosing to do. But I think it's at the detriment to his previous children, who now have no wealth to start with. And then that's a bigger conversation about the racial wealth gap. Brian McKnight is in a unique position because he has wealth to leave to his Black children, whereas the average Black family does not have this wealth to leave to their children. And so he's in that unique position, and he's choosing to not leave that wealth to his children at all. And all four of them were just so terrible that he could not leave them any money. I think it's reprehensible. And then I don't think he cares about the concerts being canceled, because if he cared, he would not have said the things that he said. I'm really questioning his mental health, because to just come out like that, and I think it gets into dogma, and I think he just to me, he's in such denial, and I don't know what took place in the previous life, in his previous lifespan with the other, but it must have been so terrible that he is choosing to block it out and all things associated with it. Now, of course, I'm not diagnosing him. I'm not his physician, but this is just my speculation, just observing and evaluating some of his statements and choices. And, he could have a form of, there could be a form of PTSD going on from some of the things that took place during his previous iteration of his previous life. So he don't want to have any memory of it. And he just wants to go on a la-la land and just be in a whole nother world. And unfortunately, we can't live like that. You have to face your fears and face the things that happen to you, because it's counterproductive. And at the end of the day, he's going to have to answer for his behavior and be accountable for his behavior eventually. We don't know what is going to happen in the future. So I really hope that he has a spiritual come to Jesus moment and a spiritual awakening, because what he thinks is a spiritual awakening is not.
Right. I was laughing at the comment because someone said we need Iyanla to come out of retirement and come out.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Linda E., how do you feel about his that situation? Like you said, you grew up with your 2-parent household, right? How would you have felt if your, God forbid, your dad had moved on and had disowned you and had this whole new family? Like, would you, and about also kids not of your race that don't look like you, just standing to inherit the money that you and your mom endured during the struggle phase, and they get to lavish around in the wealth phase? Like, how would you feel about that?
I'd feel abandoned. I'd feel like I was worthless. I wouldn't want to be in their position. I wouldn't want to feel like them. And look, fundamentally, we don't know what went on behind the scenes, right? And when it comes to money and stuff to do with money, that can easily tear a family apart. So we don't know what happened between them. That's not me excusing anyone, but fundamentally, we don't know what happened, right? But I do know that I wouldn't want to be his kids. But also, I just want to piggyback to a conversation about his wealth and, his concert being cancelled, and is this going to affect his finances? I actually don't think in the long term it will do, because people have short memory spans. If Brian is able to keep this out of social media and let things lie low for a second, he will be fine. We spoke about disassociating, and let's not lie, there's a certain singer who begins with whose songs are still being played in certain places. So clearly we are a population nowadays that are able to disassociate. It's just his music. I love as an artist. I don't have to really care about his personal life and what that happened or what he's doing there. So in the long run, I actually don't think he's going to lose any money doing this. People's memory spans today, come on, our news cycles are so quick that I don't think in the long run, he might have had, a couple of concerts cancelled, but that could actually make some people in other areas want to see him more, So no, I actually don't think his wealth is going to be affected by this. I think if it was, he maybe will not be doing it, but I think he knows that deep down he's going to be fine. So, yeah.
I think he's very much so invested in this new relationship for everything that he has done, like change his legal name to the new child's full name so that his original junior from the old marriage is not under him anymore. Like, I think he's really, I think it's more than just, I just love this woman and I'm just going to have these kids. There's something like very deeply psychologically embedded. It's almost like he wants to like erase his past completely and just be in this la la land, which I hope, even in the midst of everything, works out for him. I don't want him to end up like Jeezy, having to go to court because he thought it was like an ever after, and it's finding out that it wasn't too hot. It wasn't too hot. But I would like to also talk about with Brian and Tyrese. Do you think that are they in contact? Does anybody know? Or is just Tyrese just randomly jumping in and saying things?
They're friends.
Oh, they're friends.
Yeah.
Well, guys stick together no matter what.
let me add this. And I just saw a question in the chat that I think we should also address about if the kids are disrespectful, where's their accountability? But before I delve into that, just as well as it takes a village to raise a child, it takes, Mom, I do apologize. I know you're watching. It takes a village to raise a fuck boy. Let me say it again. It takes a village to raise a fuck boy. So if Brian McKnight is out here disrespecting, disparaging, calling his children evil, and disowning his children, then you better believe that everybody around him, from his wife to his friends and associates, are enabling this madness and this behavior, because there's a community, right? There's a community of this low vibration, lack of accountability, narcissistic vibe that really emboldens and empowers Brian McKnight to do these things. And also, if we think that he is awful, I would argue that the woman that he is married to and laying up with at night is 10 times as worse. Because how do you allow a man, how do you marry a man, devote your life to a man, and lay up with a man that is going to disparage his own seed? It doesn't make any sense. So she's probably, in my opinion, grimy, in my shameless opinion, way more grimy than him, that would allow him to just say, you know what, I'm just gonna forget about these damn kids, they're evil, and then take to a public platform so that she and her offspring can inherit everything and source all of this wealth out of the Black community and funnel it into her household and her community. So she has to be the villain of all villains in this situation, as well as every single person who is enabling Brian McKnight. And if y'all want to quote me on it, it takes a village to raise a fuckboy. Sorry, Mom.
I'm curious to hear from our bodacious lifestyle coach. I know you've probably had all kind of clients. Have you had scenarios with clients that are similar to Brian, where they have these family issues that they're having trouble reconciling, but maybe they were smart because they came to you versus the internet?
Well, here's the thing. Now, keep in mind, I come from a generation where what was done in the house stayed in the house. Now, there's pros and cons to that, because some of that stuff that was done in the house really needed to come out of the house and into a therapist chair. But having said that, this right here, we didn't do this. This is not what we did. And so what's really sad to me, and just like Queen Jade was saying, I didn't even know what an F-boy was, to be honest. I'd heard the term, but I'm going to have to Google that when we get off, because I'm not clear on it, because I don't think we had those when I was coming up. Or if we did, they weren't blatant about it. So I'm like, I have heard that term. I am going to get some clarity on what that is today. Or Miss Jade, if you feel like you want to clarify that for those of us who are of that boomer generation, when that word wasn't as prominent, but I have heard that before. And so that's my thought on that, is we just did things differently. You're not really seeing super grown people with these issues, not airing them out. Like, if y'all know of anybody that's late 50s, 60s plus that's getting down like this, let me know. But I'm not really seeing it like this. Not to say that at the family reunion we whispering, but this no, we're not doing this as far as I'm concerned. So hopefully that was helpful.
You know, I miss the days where there was structure and order and like common decency around things. But I feel like as the internet, social media age trudges on, that is just the wild, wild west out here. And instead of taking things to, like you said, a therapist chair, a lot of these celebrities take it to the internet and then have to deal with the fallout of those things. Dr. Charm, I want to ask you the question of, when it comes to obligation, and especially with these celebrities, does a parent's obligation end when the child is an adult, or is that for a lifetime? Like, does Brian have the right to disown his kids if the relationship is not great, and to just be done with it?
I mean, he has the right to dissociate if he wants to. He does have the right. I mean, that's his money. He earned it. He earned it with hard work, fair and square. But is it moral? Is it moral to leave your children, especially when they're in their 20s? Because in many walks of life, many religions, even an astrologer, I've been an astrologer for over 20 years. We don't really consider someone fully grown until you have a Saturn return, which is the planet Saturn takes 29 years to go around your sun. So that 29 and a half years to 30 years old. So most people really mature and come into their own at 30 years old. So if you notice, a lot of, parents don't help their kids out in their 20s. And now if you're 30, you're over 30, you're living at home in this American culture, that's a whole nother situation. People looking at you side-eyed. But with the economy and the things, things being the way they are, a lot of people are still at home in their 20s living with their parents. So I believe that morally, he does have a responsibility to his children. He has access to opportunity, to wealth, to publicity, to connections, to networking that would be of great value to them and can set them up to become wealthy in their own right if they have the work ethic. So I really am curious to know where the breakdown started to where it's gotten to this level of dysfunction that they are airing the dirty laundry in public and he's going on. And I will second the person who said about Dr. Leilani, I'm holding her to a higher standard because number one, you're with this man and you are standing here silent while he's engaging in this dysfunctional behavior. Now, I don't know what kind of conversation is going on behind closed doors, but I know if it were me, I would be talking to that man like, look, you need to calm down because now people are looking into me. And this is a reflection on my image as the pediatric neurologist that she is, that you sit up here and doing this. So I'm wondering, is she allowing this? What's going on? Yes, she's looking out for her children. So that's more in the pot for her. That's more of a something for them to have. So it really makes me question him. And it is immoral, in my opinion, to sit there and just disown your children, not leave them anything, not have some caveats, not have something set up. He could even set it up in the will that, if X, Y, and Z happens, that we have a fail safe and leave him some money, then don't tell him about it. But he's just, his behavior is ludicrous.
I agree. And it's curious to me. I wonder, because there's a moral aspect of things, right? The moral obligation that a lot of parents have with their children, but also the financial obligation as well. And if you are just joining us, you are being welcomed and hosted by our lovely queens, Linda Husser, Jade, Dr. Charm, and Linda E, and myself, Athena. We are Fly Nubian Money. Our sponsors today are the Black Business School, which are offering you a free AI stock list to take out the stress and the confusion about which stocks to pick to help you increase your wealth so you can create wealth for yourself and not have to be solely dependent on maybe if or not you're going to get some generational wealth, as we see in this situation with Brian. Feel free to text the word Queens to 87948 to receive your free investment list today. And if you're joining, please sure to like and subscribe so you don't miss a thing. We are here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. So, Linda E., do you think that parents have a financial obligation to their children, whether it is to support them to a certain age or to pass on generational wealth? Or especially with these celebrities, because they will always say, or the common thing I've seen in the past with celebrities is that they did the best that they could for the children, but they squandered the money, or they were, trying to ride their coattail and lacked motivation. Do you feel like these celebrities should be also financially obligated to their children? Should Brian be financially obligated to his previous 4 children?
So look, I don't have children yet, and I hope to, right? However, when I become a parent, I believe I will have a financial obligation to my children. I believe anyone who has children, wants these children, has a financial obligation to them. I don't believe in just bringing a child into this world and then just leaving them willy-nilly. Okay, I believe if you've made a choice to be a parent, you do have a financial obligation to your child. It may not be forever. By the grace of God, it should not need to be forever. I believe that what we do as a parent, my role as a parent, is to make the life of my children easier than it has been for me. So for Brian, he knew how difficult it would have been to, get into the financial position he is in, to get his celebrity status. Look, I don't know ins and outs of his career, but I know it wasn't just, oh, yep, I'm a good singer. There you go. Here's millions of pounds or billions of dollars even, right? So as a parent, why would you not want to make things easier for your children? You know, if my parents were in a position to have me and my siblings as millionaires right now, please believe me, we would be. But you know, but it's true. Why would you want things to be more difficult? Who in this day and age likes to struggle? Show me someone who really wants to be like, you know what? I didn't have it. I had it too easy. You know, I would have preferred to struggle. No, yes, having a good work ethic will get you further and is really important to build, and it builds character, etc., etc. But as a parent, yes. And, you know, going back to that, oh, you know, does he have the right to disown? Yeah, he has the right. But just because you can doesn't mean you should, you know. Fundamentally, yes, once again, we don't know what went on behind closed doors. But that's the thing. We don't know what went on behind closed doors. We only know what he's brought to the public. So we can only judge on what we have seen outside. So from him, you know, cutting his children off, yeah, they're not going to get a penny in that will, unless he said, you know, obviously in a will, you can leave your finances or assets to anybody. They don't have to be legally related to you. They don't have to be your children. So even though he has disowned, he may have a clause in his will that says these individuals of this name still get a certain amount. But based on how we've spoken about them, I don't believe that is the case. But going back to the original question, now let's be honest, he ain't giving them nothing. I pray that they make up and he does that will, because right now they ain't seeing a cent. But as a parent, you 100% do. The whole point of furthering and bringing new life in is to make things better. It's to grow that generational wealth. So why would you not want to?
Listen, we might have to put Brian McKnight on the sick and shut-in list with all his antics around this situation. Linda, our bodacious life coach, right? I want a question for you. Okay. And this is something that is also coming out as a theme as we've talked about, you know, preferences and race and generational wealth. Do you feel like the man loves for the woman determines how he treats his children? Because if Brian is willing to change his legal name, is willing to own Jack and Julia, which is Dr. Leilani's children, and saying that he only has one daughter, which is Julia, and forget about his previous daughter with his other women, Brianna. Do you feel like there's something to be said that a man's love for the person he's with is going to determine how he treats those children?
Okay, I just want to be clear on the question. So it's going to his children or her children?
Like whoever he's with, like yes. Women that he loves. Yes. The children with that woman are going to be treated better versus maybe women he's had issues with, which are clearly the previous women and children.
Now, this is my opinion. Absolutely. Because first of all, there's the sexual aspect to it. There's the innate understanding that if I treat you well, I get what I want. Your children are part of you. And so in order to keep the peace here at home, I'm going to have to pacify you. Because clearly there's some simping going on here. I mean, let's just. Yeah. So she's already laid the ground rules because, like, I think it was Dr. Charm who said this. Pretty much we've all been saying it. She is allowing this ridiculous behavior to go on because if she were to put her foot down and he's a simp, he would cut it off immediately. There is something that she is also getting from this, but at the end of the day, we are not living in the old days. We are living in a society where somebody can tell somebody to go down and to the Capitol, all right? And folks will do some things. So she's really short-sighted with this. She is not really understanding the gravity of what she is condoning. So to answer your question, absolutely. Because if the simp level is, 9, 10 plus, it's definitely, that woman is most definitely in control. So yes, there are men who've done it all the time. There's just like when you get married, there'll be kids who are already there, and then your mother has a child by the stepfather. And we've heard people say, oh, he treats, her better than me. I don't know if it's a natural response. I don't know if this is part of just how we were, the genetics. But I've heard stories. When I went to school, I had friends who said, "Yeah, my mom, she's pregnant," and they're already worried about this child because they already are starting to feel this child, because it's both of their kid, is going to get the preferential treatment.
Okay, Dr. Charm, do you agree? Do you think that the man, whoever you love, is going to be treated better?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I had a friend that was married for over 20 years. And when they got divorced, and the husband was closer to the children than she was, as far as she was more the disciplinarian and he was more the parent they go to. It's kind of like they had a little bit of a role reversal. So he was just a more nurturing parent. And when they got a divorce, after 20 something years, I mean, he completely stopped talking to his children, blocked them, no birthdays, no. I mean, it was very traumatic for the children. And so, but because they weren't together, and some men, unfortunately, he associates those children with that marriage and, how that broke down, and he didn't really want the divorce. But, once she made it clear she was not having it, she wasn't going back, then he just blocked all of it out. And unfortunately, this is what we call in psychology world a maladaptive coping mechanism. A maladaptive coping mechanism is an unhealthy way to cope with something. So a healthy way would be to work through the trauma, work through the issues, seek therapy, seek family therapy, do other things. But some of these maladaptive coping mechanisms include, okay, I'm just going to block everybody out. I'm in a corner in timeout somewhere with my inner child, drugs, alcohol, sex addiction, all these things that are unhealthy ways to cope. And I do believe that Brian is exhibiting signs of a maladaptive coping mechanism, because his coping mechanism of whatever happened with those kids and that marriage and what is just to just block them out and disown them and have nothing to do with them. He has a fresh start. He just thinks he has a whole new life. And that's just not how it works. It doesn't work that way.
Listen, maybe in Brian's mind, it does work that way, because that seems to be what he did. It's curious to me because with celebrities like Tyrese and Ricky Smiley putting themselves in, Ricky Smiley, we haven't heard anything in the news really about him since Cat Williams said he can only play a bad woman in a wig on Club Shay Shay interview. And, Tyrese is always good for a good antic every now and then. But I wonder if there's, do you ladies think, and I guess I can start with you, Jade, do you ladies think that there are other motivations for them to insert themselves into this feud, for maybe they can get some clout or publicity from it? Or do you think it's generally coming from a place of sincerity? Jade?
I think, yes, thank you. I think it depends on the person. But when people who have large platforms and are celebrities, they oftentimes get addicted to the clout, to the attention. And some people believe that all controversy is good controversy. So I think it really depends on the character of these individuals. And us looking at celebrities from afar, and we don't really know, you can't really assess a person's character by just sort of following them or looking. I think that ultimately their character it shows when nobody else is around, or the people who actually know them can really see what their true intentions or motivations are, because a lot of these people are actors and this stuff is performative. So I think it really depends. I just wish people would just stop airing their dirty laundry out on the internet. Like, I just, I'll be over here trying to mind my business and, fight the revolution and be constructive and stay in my lane. But when I'm being bombarded with other people's business, like publicly, it's like, damn, this is so distracting from the mission, right? This is so distracting from, collective Black progress. So I just think it really all depends. Personally, I do believe that Ricky Smiley was sincere, and I do think that it's commendable, and hopefully, he'll be able to offer the support that he would like to offer. And the next time, just men get together, y'all hold they should hold their men's empowerment circles and really support each other and hold hands and hug and kiss and dap each other up and support each other to prevent these things from happening publicly. That's what I would hopefully love to see. And I'm seeing this a lot with Gen X. Men who are in Gen X right now, often, like, many of them are going through midlife crises. I don't know what's going on.
I'm about to say, shake my tambourine. Where's the tambourine?
Maybe they can come together and really have some productive healing and restorative groups to really support each other, because this is not a good look. It's just not a good look.
Listen, according to me, said in the comments, Tyrese hates Black women just like Brian McKnight. Ricky needed some and collective Black progress. Yes. Now, if you are tuning in, you are with Fly Nubian Money. I am your host, Athena, and we are joined by our lovely co-queens. And as we close out today, you can feel free to text the word queens to 87948 if you want an AI stock list from our sponsors. So closing thoughts, Linda E. Actually, Linda E., I want you to start with our closing thoughts as we wrap up today. Any last thoughts about Brian McKnight and where people can find you?
Yeah, final thoughts on Brian McKnight and the whole situation is it is incredibly sad. I can only hope that him and his children get together behind the scenes, behind the cameras, offline, have a proper conversation, get into therapy, and he just sorts himself out, and does what is right. That's all I can hope. But in terms of how to find me, you can find me via Instagram on I'm Linda E. On TikTok, I am Linda E, and my website is www.lindae.co.uk.
Listen, she had the domain and all the follows. Linda E, honey, you can't be missed. Our bodacious lifestyle coach. Any more final thoughts?
Yes. Before you even think about going live, really ask yourself, is this going to be helpful? Is this going to move the needle towards healing? I am Linda S. Huster, also known as the Bodacious Lifestyle Coach. I can be reached at lindashuster.com, Linda S. Huster on Instagram, and Linda S. Huster 1, the number 1 on TikTok.
Okay, Linda. Jade, our educated queen, our social entrepreneur, how can people find you?
Yes, you all can find me on social media platforms, Lioness Crowns. You can also go to my website, highblackesteem.com. That's highblackesteem.com. My final comment is that I would urge us all to come together and pray for this family, pray for Brian McKnight, pray for his children that are hurting right now, and pray for the restoration of love, healing, and forgiveness within our community so that we can continue on surviving through this hellhole of a white supremacist world that we are in, and to actually create generational wealth and sustainable relationships. So, the continuity of our kind will continue to grow and to thrive for generations to come. So I do uplift this family as well as all families experiencing similar situations and circumstances. I pray for them for love and for healing and forgiveness. And other than that, I have nothing else constructive to add to this conversation. Thank you.
Listen, it must be hot because Linda put out the fan, honey, like she in church, honey. Dr. Charm, any last thoughts? I love your perspective. I loved you add so much to this conversation that I didn't even know we was gonna go, but I love that we went, honey. Any final thoughts?
Thank you. I appreciate that. My final thoughts are, Brian, if you or your children or anyone else seeing this needs a tarot reading and some spiritual advising, you can text me at 404-832-5179. That is the BAT line. I am an astrologer, professional astrologer, and tarot reader and psychic medium, in addition to being a naturopathic doctor. But for the spiritual things that is completely separate from healthcare. I also have a show tonight at the King of Diamonds. No, I will not be stripping, but here in Atlanta, anybody who is in the ATL area who wants to come through the KOD at 9:30 tonight, all my guests get in free. I am also a stand-up comedian. I'm sure you all can tell. Brian, please seek help. Anyone else? If you're going through strife, stress, and strain, you can call on Jesus, but you also better put in a hotline to that therapist. Okay, mental health is important. National Alliance for Mental Illness is available and here for all of us. Thank you, Jesus.
Listen, the men are definitely getting spicier, and I don't know if I like it. I have to say, I don't know if I like it. I guess my final thoughts would be this. It is I wish that celebrities, the PR people need to take their phones or limit their access to social media, because they definitely should not, whatever the instance is, be airing out their dirty laundry for people to put their 2 cents in, and that affects their brand, their livelihood, and what they have going on. It's just a shame that, this is Brian McKnight, a beloved singer of ours, has had these issues with his family, and it's playing out in this way. But I think it's a lesson for all of us to learn about how to handle family issues and disputes and what is important at the end of the day. I am your host, Athena Gardner. I'm a CPA and founder of We Wealth Women, where I teach women how to become the wealthy goddesses of their life by creating their own wealth narrative. We are your hosts for today, and we were sponsored by the Black Business School. Be sure to text the number 87948 if you want a free AI stock list so you can get your money up. That will be all for today, and we will see you tomorrow as we're here Monday through Friday at 1 p.m. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.